Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what is going on in the sky above us today. And since it's Monday, we'll take a look a little bit ahead at the week. Doesn't seem to be that great of a week. Not that bad of a week, I should say. It's not that great. It's not that bad. It's just sort of in between. And we do have a new moon to look forward to on Friday that can help change the weather, if you will, change the astrological landscape. And I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend, coming off of 2 days of no snow, thankfully, and living in a beautiful area of the country. It's just as green as it could be today. I like green compared to white. So anyway, that's good. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day for everybody that gets the day off. Yay for you. For those of us that are working today, yay for us. We still get to stop for a moment and think about the person that changed the world, right? In many ways, this man has changed the world, and we come together today and honor his memory. Now, what's going on in the stars above today? Well, today is one of those days later we're going to look at, we're going to go, wow, it was up and down and in and out and yes and no. And it reminds me, there's a song that I hear on the radio periodically about it being first we're hot and then you're cold. It's yes and then no, and then up and then down. You're in, then you're out. So today is going to be one of those kinds of days, as there's a very minor aspect happening in behind the scenes, but it tends to be one of those kind that sort of dig at us, because it is the planet Venus that is creating these tensions, if you will. And because we are primarily relationship-oriented people, and because Venus rules our relationships, it could be in the context of our relationships that we feel like we're having this up and down, in and out, sort of hot and cold energy today. So we do sort of want to watch out for that feeling. You know, on one hand, you may be feeling really up and positive and everything's going great. Someone says something, gets in your way in the lane of traffic, and before you know it, you're down in the dumps, or you're angry or upset or irritated. You get to work and the first person you see says, hello, good morning. And you're like, oh yes, I can change that energy. So today, up and down a bit throughout the day, as Venus first comes into what we're calling a semi-square. So it is a 45-degree relationship with one another, first with Pluto and then with Saturn. So we have the big hitters in Capricorn that are sometimes the buzzkill planets, and Venus, who's not normally that way. She's really much more loving and uplifting. And then when she gets into contact with these guys, her good energy runs into the more negative, and before you know it, we have this up and down, up and down. So don't take it seriously. It's just one of those kinds of energetic signatures we have for the day, where on any number of minutes you might feel one way, and then the next something happens to change that. So don't take it seriously. Just kind of go with the flow with that. Good morning, Mimi and Suzanne. Great to see you 2 days now in a row, Suzanne. It's lovely, lovely to have you with us. Mimi, I'm confused because it says Living Astrology, but thank you, Mimi. You're in behind the scenes again. I forgot completely. Thank you, thank you. And Linda Marie, good morning. And Colleen, good morning. And Linda Marie says, Katy Perry, hot and cold. Yes, that's it. I always, before my husband leaves in the morning, I try to give him a little tidbit of the daily energies, because he, is working out in the world, and he's got to drive to get there. And there's a lot of people that he works with, and customers and clients coming in and out all day. And so he's more subject to irritations, right? So this morning I said, that song, you're hot and you're cold and you're, and he's like, yeah, I know the song, but what are you saying? And I said, well, don't be surprised today if people are up and down, in and out, up and hot and cold. And so he got my meaning, but I could not remember the song. I could hear it in my head, but I couldn't think of what it was. Thank you, Linda Marie. Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel, good morning. Rebecca, good morning. And Colleen says it's freezing in New Jersey. Ay, cold stuff. I think it moved from the west to the east, and we are back to normal. clouds, rain, about 48 degrees for the high, I think, today. Not too bad, right? Kind of normal Pacific Northwest weather instead of the craziness of last week. So there we go. Let's take a look then today at what is going on with the moon. The moon has moved into the sign of Sagittarius, a fire sign whose ruling planet is Jupiter. So we are set up perhaps for some bigger things today, for maybe some expressions of optimism and faith that everything will turn out the way it's meant to turn out. So today, Moon in Sagittarius comes into contact with Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Neptune. In fact, the Moon will conjunct Mars here. Let's see if I can give you an idea of time very soon, in the next little bit. And often when the Moon conjuncts Mars, there can be a conflict or some kind of confrontation that comes up. But with the Moon in Sagittarius and Mars also in Sagittarius, what may come up is a need to go out and become adventurous, or to follow some kind of trail of information that leads you to something more exciting, because the Moon in Sagittarius is primarily an adventurer. It is the energy of free-spiritedness, where the call of nature, and I don't mean of the bathroom sort, but the need to get out and experience the air, the wind, the cold, the hot, the whatever it is where you are, to go outside, to travel, to adventure, to explore and discover. So primarily today with the moon, we're dealing with this energy of wanting to get out and about. And as the moon comes into contact with Mars, then it gives us the action piece to do just that. You know, I was feeling a little bit like I had cabin fever yesterday, and I looked outside and the snow was really melted back, and I went, I got to get out of here. So I made myself go out and get, you know, it was just wonderful to be out in the cool air and to be doing something other than having to stay inside and watch the snow. Especially since I work at home, I really have no need to go out anywhere on any given day. So it was me needing to feel like I was a part of the world. So get out, adventure, do some big things. But it is also an energy of knowledge seeking. Sagittarius, very much like Gemini, is looking for information, looking for the depth of something. So it may mean that you have a connection to higher education, or wanting to look at a subject deeper to gain more spiritual wisdom and insight. It might be a good day to take out your Gene Keys book and look up the Gene Key 60 and the Gene Key 61. That's just a little hint coming from me. And see what that's all about, and look at your own charts and see where that is. Find any kind of subject that interests you and pull that thread and go deep into what does it mean. There's, you know, any number of subjects that this can apply to. It doesn't have to be the kind that make me happy, just whatever it is information-wise that makes you happy. Go look for it. This is also a time of moral consciousness. I put that under I put that under a positive energy, but you got to know that that has an edge to it as well. What does moral consciousness mean? What does it mean to you versus what does it mean to me versus what does it mean to the people you are interacting with in any given day? So moral consciousness, and whether you are following your own inner moral ethic manager, or are you following somebody else's ethics and morals? So moral consciousness, where we're in the negative, it takes us into self-righteousness, right? Where we're just sure we're right. And it doesn't, nobody gives a bleep about what you think because it's not right. It is also a slippery slope into big time institutional systems that can create a belief system for you where you get caught up into it, whether it's politics, whether it is religion, and believing that only the one way is true, and that your moral consciousness is all that there is. And you have to remember that moral consciousness is different in different cultures. It is different in different religions, different upbringings, different societies, different countries on the planet. So be very aware that moral consciousness has a bigger sort of meaning behind it, and it isn't going to be the same for everybody. Now, there are some pretty common core things. I mean, I bet we could all say that in a good moral conscience, we don't go out and kill our neighbors, or we don't kill one another. I mean, that's a more common one, a more cohesive kind of belief that we may all have. But what about other kinds of beliefs that are out there, say abortion or any of these other things that sort of have been divisive between or polarizing between us? And whether I believe in abortion or you don't believe in abortion doesn't mean that I have to inflict my consciousness on you, nor you on me. So moral consciousness has to stay open. It has to be wide. It has to be inclusive instead of exclusive. And so we can grapple with these things for the next couple of days while the moon is moving through the sign of Sagittarius. We have to be open to life and be optimistic and have faith in a grander plan that's being enacted here on the planet, being more open to other points of view and things that other people believe in that you don't believe in, etc., etc. So we become more open. We become more spontaneous, even with the moon in Sagittarius. And just a couple of little things to watch out for, which can turn into big things if you go against the grain here. One is that in Sagittarius, the moon can be very blunt. And out of an emotional reaction to something, you can say things that hurt or wound others, or others who are totally not in the know can say or do things that hurt you. And we have to be prepared to just be able to go, that person is not working in their consciousness. Be aware that it doesn't deserve a response back that is blunt or hurtful or hateful. So hateful, hurtful, blunt speech is not necessarily a good way to go right now. And first of all, it's never really a good idea to speak bluntly unless you've been invited to do so or you've been requested to do so. If someone tells you plain talk, tell me what this is all about, that's a different story, right? You're being invited then, but it still doesn't have to be hurtful or hateful. It can be clear and concise, but it doesn't have to go into the verbal gunslinging territory. So that's something we'll want to watch for. Missing the details, also a problem sometimes when the moon moves through Sagittarius. I think that's lesser of a problem right now because we still have quite a few planets in Capricorn that are holding us to the details and to the facts and keeping us on our path. But we also in Sagittarius, with the moon here anyway, can want to skip steps, but try not to do that. You might find you got to go back and pick up the step you lost. Unless you're a manifesting generator and your entire field is about skipping steps and moving on. Anyway, so we have that energy moving on today. Good morning, Irene Alberg. Hello from Sweden. Nice to see you out there. Nice that you could join us live. Christine also joining us this morning, I think from Sweden as well. Debbie said it's freezing here, 20s tonight. Welcome to Washington. Or welcome to the weather we had. Natasha, good morning. Rebecca says, greetings, everyone. Camille, it's 24 here in Alabama. We will not be out of the 30s all day. So you guys, when I tell you that it's that cold here, you should know in the next few days you're going to get it because it seems to move from west to east, comes in, swoops down, moves over, and leaves us alone, but then picks on you guys. Judy Wheeler, good morning. Laura Pascammer, good morning. Kathy Miller, hello. And Kathy Miller says, good morning, everyone. It has been in the 40s and 50s here. Even walked the dog yesterday. Yes, our temperatures moderate while yours get crazy. Judy says, yes, for sure. So it's great that a lot of people can join us this morning. I think it's probably due to the holiday or maybe, yeah, because a lot of the schools are out. I think all the schools are out and post offices closed, banks closed, etc. So it's great to see some of you new people out there as well as some of you that we don't get to see very often anymore. Oh, let's see. So we've gone through the moon. There was something, big news about the moon. It's not made of cheese. Oh, just kidding. Okay, so the moon is moving into void of course really very quickly, as in it really just moved into Sagittarius late yesterday afternoon, 5:42 for you all on the East Coast, 2:42 in the afternoon for us here on the West Coast. And now it's already going to go void of course this afternoon or this evening at 8:46 p.m. my time. So that will be 11:46 p.m. for you all on the East Coast. And it will stay void until tomorrow night at 9:01 p.m. my time, which is actually midnight 01 for you all on the 22nd if you're on the East Coast, or if you're further east into Europe, it's going to be on the 22nd. So it is an interesting void. Of course, it seems to cross over time zones in a very weird way, but it is likely a little bit more than a 24-hour void, of course, until the moon moves into the sign of Capricorn. So it means today's moon contacts are great. Tomorrow we have no moon contacts at all. And then on the 22nd, the moon will make a new move into the sign of Capricorn, making new connections. And we will again have some moon transits going on. It's always interesting to see these long void of course moons. And then that causes me to want to look at what is the last aspect the moon makes before traveling into the void. So I want you to think of it like this. The last aspect the moon makes before it moves into this void of course, or any void of course, is sort of like a jewel. It's sort of like a task even, something that is almost tangible that you take with you into the void. And the void, remember, can be a scary place. When we think of void, we think of emptiness. We think of nothingness, no things, nothing there. And in the void, then to have a tool with you, or to have a jewel, or to have something with you can be very powerful. And yet it can also be an irritating kind of scritchiness that you're left with for hours and hours. Well, the last contact of the moon is with Neptune. It'll be a square, so we have a little bit of possibility for some irritation. But this is about gaining spiritual awareness. So you're gaining spiritual awareness through the square with Neptune and taking it with you into the long void of course moon. So being willing maybe to look into the more spiritual dimension of life, being more, maybe it's a great time for prayer, for meditation, for yoga, for getting out any number of spiritual books that you might have, and spending some time looking at that before we, on Wednesday morning, let's see, what time did I tell you that was going to be? It will be 9:01 p.m. tomorrow night for me, midnight for you all on the East Coast. So you're probably going to sleep through, but when you wake up, you'll have the moon in Capricorn and the energy will have changed. So that'll be the morning of the 22nd. So all day tomorrow, take some time, right? Take some time and do some spiritual study, or do some work on the inner planes. Do some questioning. Maybe tomorrow we'll do a lesson in the Wisdom Keeper's Oracle deck and give you some contemplation questions to work with tomorrow. That might be actually a really good idea, as especially since we're sitting here preparing for, on the 23rd, our new human design year beginning, and giving us a whole new time of seeding something for the upcoming year. Today also is the first day of the sun's move into Aquarius. Yay! From now until February 18th, the sun will transit the sign of Aquarius. That is a sign where we are seeking knowledge. It's very similar to Sagittarius in that way. We are claiming our genius, right? Our genius meaning whatever it is that's particularly important for you, or that you have a specific gift or talent to do or to be. Originality and inventiveness are also favored during this time. It is also a great time. Actually, let me give you a question. How can I word this? What new perspectives can you take on? Maybe look at it like, what in your perspective of life needs to change, right? That's Aquarian energy. What is outdated in our lives? You could ask it that way. What is outdated in your life? And what is it that you want to do to change it? What is outdated? What is no longer useful? If you look back over everything in your life, the physical, the mental, emotional, spiritual, what is outdated? What is no longer serving its purpose, right? Because in this period of time, we're seeking that new perspective, that new way of looking at things. We're breaking down the sidewalls of those boxes so that we can see the world in a new way. We want new vistas. I quoted that one, vistas, because vistas, we want to see the whole. We want to see the bigger picture. We want to engage the world in a broader way. And because we have been so locked into that form and structure, the rules and the regulations and of Capricorn, and where we still are a bit, caught up in that energy. The building, the rebuilding, the destruction, the reconstruction, all of that seems so restrictive to us when the sun moves on into Aquarius. So we want freedom for ourselves, right? We want to be free of these things that we've had to deal with. We want a sort of catharsis. We want to break for freedom, and we don't want limits, right? We're done with the limits. And what does that mean for all of us? What do you want to reduce the, let's see, the restriction load of in your life? So looking at that, that gives us a lot of potential and possibility for change, for being different. Now, there's an interesting dynamic that occurs when we're dealing with Aquarius energy. We might as well get used to this because we're going to be dealing with Aquarian energy as we move further and further into 2020. We're going to get the first hints of Saturn in Aquarius. Then late in the year, we're going to have Saturn and Jupiter conjunct at 0 Aquarius. The sun is at 0 Aquarius right this minute. So take a look around the world. Take a look around what is in your life, because you're getting the hint right now. Remember when we had Venus cross that territory, and she's now on into Pisces. We had Mercury just cross into this territory, across that 0 degrees Aquarius. Now today, the sun at 0 degrees Aquarius. So what is being modeled to you in your life? If you looked at your life as a series of omens or synchronicities or quinkydinks, or what is it, claydons, another word that we've learned by using the Colette Baron Reed Oracle deck. Claydons are like clues, something that gives you a sort of precognition of something to come. Signs and omens and that kind of thing. If you look at the signs around you, you could probably tell already the direction that humanity is moving in and how things can be when you let go. I mean, the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex, what great role models for us in this right now, in that having the nerve, having the courage to face down an institution such as the royal family, or the idea of being royal and all of that that's encumbered by that, and saying, no, that's not what we want for our lives. And not only did they have to face the institution, they are also having to face the public with all of this. The public, in one respect, that is really down on them, the other part of the public that's doing, supportive of them, but they're doing what's correct for them. And that's kind of what we're having to do, all of us, in some way, right? It might be have to have the courage to untie yourself from something, even if it has repercussions, so that you can be free to move forward with your own life in your own way. And it's big, right? That is big because we're scared. We are scared to do things like that. And it's almost it's an illogical fear to be afraid of that, but we are still sort of planted in those survival energies of the spleen. We haven't quite got the hang yet of that emotional intelligence that really courses through us and tells us when we're in the wrong place, or when we're with the wrong people, or in the wrong opportunity, or on the other hand, tells us when we're in the right place with the right people and the right opportunities. So we have to call up the courage to be able to do that. And as we start to move forward, not only do we have then the planet Saturn, who still holds as the traditional ruler of Aquarius, we have Uranus, who is the more modern ruler of Aquarius. So we have a planet that likes constraint and boundaries versus a planet that says, throw off the chains and I'm moving forward. So it kind of is up to us to find that road of freedom and to acquaint ourselves with that road one step at a time, right? We have to sort of play to both of those planets. Now, where is Aquarius in your own chart? What house does it sit on? Likely it doesn't sit in just one place. Even if we look at this chart, this is the chart of today. If this were a person, we would see Aquarius, which is a symbol that looks like waves, right? Little waves. Why is my camera not tuning in here? If I move it in closer, it's probably going to get blurrier. For a moment, there it is, clear. That's Aquarius. Note how it's halfway in the 12th house up here and halfway in the first house right here. So that's likely how it looks in your own personal charts in some ways. Rarely does the sign completely sit in one house, although it could. So take a look at your chart and find the house that and the houses, for those of you who might be new, are these pie-shaped pieces in a chart, right? The pie-shaped pieces are houses. And each one of those houses pertains to an area of your life. Now, on this particular chart, if this were a person, it would be half in the 12th house, half in the first house, coming out of the dark of the 12th and out into the light of the first, from the hidden to the exposed. So this particular person, if this were a person, would be dealing with some of the unconscious patterns going on in their lives. And how do I clear those unconscious patterns so that when indeed the Aquarian energy moves over into the first house, then I'm prepared, right? There's a new me, a new adventurous, quirky, awakened person that's moving into the first house. If you have it in the second house and the first house, it might be applying to both yourself, your personality, and also your money and how you earn your money. So we could look at all of those different houses, and the sun's presence in that house is really going to drive some of the circumstances that you find yourself in over the next month, all the way through February 18th, when then the sun will make its move into Pisces, changing the energy once again. Denise Briggs, good morning. Crystal Berry, good morning. Elisa, good morning. Linda Dennis, good morning. Great to see you ladies out there as well. And everybody else, if you guys have any questions, let me know, right? Type them in here. I've got time this morning, apparently, for questions. If we look at the Pleiadian-Earth energy for the day, we start the week, the work week anyway, at the with the universal energy of 3 and the earth energy of transcending. So the energy of 3 is the energy of creativity. It takes the one and the duality of the two and it puts them together in a new arrangement, thus the ideal of creative energy. What do we want to create? So everything on the planet right now, everything in the universe right now, no matter where you are resonating with this creative energy. It's there for all of us. And then transcending energy. Here's another question you might contemplate. What are you waiting for? Right? What are you waiting for? Transcending energy is our taking the steps to move through something, to transcend something. In the Mayan calendar, this was Kimi energy, C-I-M-I. It was represented by the vulture, was represented by the skull sometimes. It was an energy that represented a sort of death and rebirth. And in this case, we call it transcending, because to move through something is really about what do we need to release in order to be able to move forward. Do you see sort of a theme developing here as we go into the week? So we're starting our work week with this idea of what are we changing, right? What are we moving through? What are we releasing? And the other phrase that came to mind for me was letting go, letting God, right? Let go, let God, or let source, whatever you're more comfortable with word-wise. Let go, let Goddess. That works as well. In other words, you're relinquishing some of that stubborn perseverance that the places you've been stuck, you're letting it go to spirit or to your inner world, right? The inner planes for releasing and letting go. Okay, checking here, questions. How is Aquarius in the 8th and the 9th houses affected? That's interesting, because Aquarius in the 8th house would be all about change, right? That is very transformational energy. It is a house that we call the house of sex, death, and rebirth. And so not literally, rarely do we talk about the 8th house of death as a real death. I mean, it can happen, but it is often the place in our chart of regeneration. And the sun partly there right now, perhaps. I think what you're saying is it's moved into the 8th house, or it's in the 8th house and we'll move on to the 9th. So out of the ashes comes something new, sort of phoenix energy, Laura. So as you are in the process of transforming or changing or letting go of something, it opens the doorway then to the 9th house, in the 9th house of expansion and growth and optimism, and that reliance on your higher self, seeing things from a higher perspective. So letting go, letting God would for you lead to a new beginning or an expansion in opportunities or consciousness. And it may not always be visible to you right in the moment, right? You may have to release something or transform something without knowing what comes next. That's the scary part of that kind of experience, is that there may not be anything obvious to you as to what goes on. We tend to want to hold on until we have something to go to, or we don't want to let go of a relationship unless we have someplace else to go with a relationship. We don't want to let go of a job unless we have another job to go to. And sometimes then this would be a need for you, or a trigger to having to have faith in a higher power. So a tricky one, but I mean, this doesn't have to be bad. It just might be a little tricky depending on how stuck you are, or how attached you are to things being the way they are right now, and whether you're willing to let go and move on. I would say letting go and moving on is the scary part, but that follows with something really positive having jumped out of that. Good morning, Jacqueline. And oh no, missed the last live, had surgery. Well, we're sending you tons of healing energy. Hopefully you are all on the mend at this moment, Jacqueline. But I'm so happy that you joined us in the time you could. Denise K. Briggs, Aquarius spans my 7th and 8th. So a little bit different story for you. We still have the 8th house, but let's start with the 7th. Aquarius in the 7th is about relationships then. So the 7th, let me show you a chart here. Let me highlight something really quickly because everybody could gain from this, I think. Hopefully it's highlighted. Now, I don't know where, of course, Aquarius is on that. I would imagine that the descendant, this part right here, where you see the letters DC, begins in Aquarius for you. And that means that your perfect reflection in other people is about Aquarian ideals, freedom, right? Being quirky or off-center, being genius, someone who's out there living, walking their talk and living their life on their own terms. Now, that doesn't have to hurt someone else, by the way, but it does seem that the descendant points us to the kind of person that we would want in our lives, the kind of relationships that we really are drawn to, because then we can see ourselves in the mirror of those relationships. And that would put Leo, I think, then on your rising sign. So Leo, the individual, the confident, the needing to be confident and very self-centered, needs to be able to see the reflection of how that serves the greater good or serves the community. So you would seek people who would bring that to you, would bring that idea of humanity, etc. In the 7th house, then it may affect the relationships that you currently have. And are they freedom-free? Are they freedom-loving, freedom-giving? Do they support your being an individual? And you may find yourself having to work through some relationship issues like that. Then as Aquarian energy moves over into the 8th house, there can be some changes in those relationships. Is it a letting go of a relationship? Is it a change, a conversation, and out of that, the relationship changes? That's hard to tell without looking at your whole chart. But the potential here is for you to live out your Aquarian desires through your relationships. And if you're not seeing yourself clearly as a human being who's inventive, who's holding her own, who's living her genius, and that being reflected to you through other people, then you've got some work to do during this period of time. It'll bring that up into your face. Laura, you're welcome. Camille, Aquarius in the 4th house My natal Jupiter is home here also. The fourth house is about home. It's about the real estate that you live in. It is about the earth, really, the ground beneath your feet. And what does that look like to you? Is it solid? Does it form a launching pad? The image I get in my mind is a launching pad, a place of safety that you can come back to, but that is also where you feel safe enough to launch out into the world and do what you do. So the fourth house then, Aquarius, is really about home, a place of freedom, a place where you also have safety, and a place where it feels good for you to be able to move out into the world and do what you need to do without being tied to the house, but it's a safe place to come home to. Jan, Aquarius in the 7th and 8th also. There you go. Same sort of issues around, that's interesting because my Aquarius sits in the 7th and 8th for me as well. Funny, a lot of things going on there. Actually, my 7th house begins in Capricorn. So that would be Aquarius, 7th and 8th. Wow. So we all have that happening somewhere in our chart. So you can see what the sun is. The sun isn't a malefic planet, by the way. So it's not like it's always going to bring up the negative in each of those areas. It's not. It's just shining a very bright light into that area. It may highlight the really awesome things. It may highlight some of those places that are still, maybe that you're uncomfortable with, because it's a huge spotlight, right? The sun is a huge spotlight, and wherever it is where it's calling your attention. So blending that area that the sun is in right now along with where your natal sun is also important. And that's a bigger, deeper, longer discussion, because there's 12 potential signs that you have your sun in, and then how your sun is aligned with other planets can also affect what happens as the transiting sun. So if you're an Aquarian, you're having a birthday this next few weeks, and this would be your solar return, and the themes are being set up for you for this next year. And that's what the birthday is all about. It sets the themes, the events, the things that are uppermost in your mind. Through the chart that's drawn up for the solar return, we can see those themes. Okay, Jan, late degree Cancer rising at 26 degrees. I can't believe that's exactly my rising sign, Jan. 26 Cancer. So that's so funny. So that means that likely your Aquarius is across the 7th and 8th, very much like mine, so in the later degrees. So having to maybe deal with quite a bit of the 8th house energy of change and transformation. What do you want to let go of? What is it appropriate to let go of? It is also a time, and this is just off the wall, but it is also a time to look at your finances. 8th house finances are your investments, taxes, credit, debt, money coming in from a spouse. It might be what kind of a legacy are you dealing with, what kind of inheritance. You might be looking at setting up your own will or your own legacy. What is that called? Your own, I guess, will, your final wishes kind of thing. And that, no matter what age you're at, is always important. Like, what are your wishes? What's that called? A do not resuscitate, a DNR, your medical will, and your so all of that may come into focus during the next several weeks. And I find that interesting because one of the things I was thinking about, I have these 2 apps on my phone, and one of them is called Stash and the other one is called Robinhood. And they are investment type apps. And somehow I won some free GE stock, and I ended up making some money off of that in this app. And I was thinking the other day that I really don't understand how this works. And my sons are also doing this, and a daughter, I think, are doing this. And they're making some good money. And I was thinking, I really need to take a look at that and learn more about it so I can do with this intelligently. So there you have already some of that 8th house ideas of money, and what money that comes to you, not from the work that you do specifically, like your job or your earning power, but money that comes from stocks and that kind of thing. So there's that. Irene, Aquarius, is in her 5th and her 6th house. So you have an interesting time, Irene, in that, you know, I don't know if you've listened to the recordings before of the show, but I like to talk about that area of the chart as being the place where your creative ideas, your creative energies have to get launched out into the world. So I always think of that 5th, 6th house as where the rubber meets the road, because if you have a lot of creative ideas, a lot of energy devoted to creating something, but it only stays up here in your head, then once you get to the 6th house, it has to come out and down and into the world, because the 6th house is ruled by Virgo, typically, in the natural state of, in the natural order of the zodiac. So the 6th house is a doing house, and the 5th house is a creative house. And it might mean that you have to actually set up the situation for that creative energy to become expressed during this period of time. It might require changes in your health as well, or the way that you're treating your body. There may be changes in the environment that you work in. Maybe you have to do something to make that environment work better. There will be people around you that you have to consider as well during this period of time, because that might be your work territory. The 5th house, though, is also about taking risks. So sometimes the 5th house, besides being love and romance and joy and play, also has a little bit of that need to take some calculated risks. And those calculated risks then take and launch you into a new environment or on a new project or in the world of work in some way. But that's also a bit about your health, because the 6th house also rules the body, the temple through which you do create out in the world. So making sure you maybe need to look at toxins in your environment. What are you putting into your body? Maybe do some healing work, maybe get a massage or some Reiki done, or something that can really support the body physical. And I don't know if you have any planets in that area, but they might be affected by the sun transiting through there as well. Tracy, good morning to you. Great questions, you guys. You guys know your charts. I love that. And this is why I always say, if you are out there and you have not received a chart, or you don't know where to go to get your chart, contact me through my website, living-astrology.com, and request your free astrology chart or your free human design chart, because having that chart handy when we're having this kind of a discussion is oh so helpful, right? Because then you can just look down at your chart and you go, oh yeah, it's my 6th and 5th house, or 5th and 6th house, or my 7th and 8th house. It's very helpful, very helpful. Debbie Hedden, 6 and 7 for me. And Debbie or Judy says, I wish I knew where my planets are. Well, if you have, Judy, I'm trying to think if I've sent you a chart like this, sort of like this, not one that's written over, but down here, this part right here tells you where all of your planets are. The top one is always going to be the sun. In the chart of this one, it says the sun is at 0 degrees Aquarius, 0 minutes, 33 seconds. The moon was at 9 degrees Sagittarius, or sorry, 0 degrees. No, I can't read that. Too small. But here, right here, all of the degrees. Not only that, you can take the symbol. Like if you see that symbol and you're like, what the heck is that? Look down the side here for that symbol and it'll tell you, oh, that's the planet Uranus, right? So that's how you can use your chart to help you find the planets and what planet it is by the symbol. And the name of it's right next to it. So it's pretty easy. Also on, oh, I wish I could share my screen. I can't share my screen. But if I could share my screen with you, I would show you that when you pull up a chart, if you use Astro like I do, I just go to Astro and I pull up charts for people. Before you make the chart big, you'll see there's a smaller copy of the chart. And up at the top, it'll say transits. What does that say? Hold on. I'm going to look. I can do that while you guys are going to see me looking away, and that's okay, because I want to know what is that it says. Because what it does is it gives you a listing of all the aspects in your chart, and in word format. So it's not just looking at the chart. You have the chart plus that. Hold on, my computer's being slow here, probably because I'm broadcasting. So up at the top, it says PDF additional tables. Additional tables. So if you go to that up at the top of the chart, once you've got your chart up at the top, it'll say additional tables. Click on that. It'll bring up all the tables so you know what planets are where and what their aspects are, etc. It is all the info. And I know that might be a lot for some of you, but others of you are a little bit further along in astrology and know a little bit more. So try that and see. Somebody else asked me a question. Who was that? Here we go. Irene. No, it wasn't Irene. It wasn't Judy. I thought somebody, Debbie Hedden, 6 and 7. So let's talk about that for a minute. Let me look at other comments here. Everything you say about my placements makes so much sense. Isn't astrology wonderful that way? And so Debbie Hedden, 6th and 7th house for you. So at first, it's the work environment that the sun is focusing on. It is the body environment. It is the environment that you live in, that you find yourself in. And then it moves on into relationships. So the sun focusing its energy there in an area that helps you get some clarity around what's going on in your immediate environment. And that immediate environment, if it is holding toxic energies, needs to be cleaned or purified in some way. And then the sun moving off across the descendant into Aquarian energy, it might be time for you to do something different with your spouse. I know you're married, I believe, and are in a relationship. Maybe this gives you some opportunity to do something different together. I don't know. Whatever you do normally with each other, it might be time to add something new, something different, something interesting. Kind of spice up your relationship by like looking at different ways to do that. Out of the blue the other night, I said, I told my husband I was bored. Not with him, but I was bored. It was more like I had cabin fever because I'd been stuck in this house for a week. And it's funny, sometimes I go off island and I realize, oh my gosh, I haven't been off this island since last Sunday. And I'm like, oh my God, how does that happen? All week long, I don't go anywhere. And so I'm telling him I was bored. And I said, maybe we should take up square dancing, like out of the blue. I mean, I don't know where that came from. It just came up in my mind. I don't know that he would want to do that. He's got a bad knee. But it's that kind of thinking with Aquarius on the 7th house. Maybe there's something we could do together that's different, you know, going someplace different. Like maybe you go out to eat at the same old places all the time. Maybe it's time to try something new. Go somewhere else. Do something different. Try something new. Hang out with a different set of friends together. Because otherwise life can get boring, and this is going to stir that pot a little bit for you. Judy, I can request a free chart. Yes, go to living-astrology.com. You can get your free human design chart with a report and your free natal chart that comes with a explanation of the houses and how your chart is set up. Judy says, being a Sagittarius, I have the need to know. I gotcha. I got you. I do too, right? The need to know. And I bet you know a lot more than you think you know. So it's time to get some freebies and find out what else you know. Let's get some cards for the week. I cleaned off my desk this weekend. It was very empowering to do that. This is an animal card that will be our totem animal for the week. By the way, don't forget this Friday, we are moving into a new moon, the new moon in Aquarius. So the new moon for all of you that just told me where Aquarius is in your chart is what happens on Friday in that area. So not only do you have the sun there, but you also have a new moon that will be maybe transmitting something new for you in that area of your life. And it'll occur at 4 degrees of Aquarius. So we get Rabbit Spirit. Oh, I love to see her at the beginning of the week, right? Rabbit Spirit. Card number 49, which interestingly is a 4, comes down to a 4. And Rabbit Spirit says now is a lucky time. Look at her. She's so pretty. Let's see what that card means. 49. And she came out upright, so we're reading the upright message. It is, a sunny meadow calls, and Rabbit Spirit appears to lead you out of the dark warren and into the light, so that you can participate in a fertile and beautiful experience. It may seem safe below ground, but the magic happens when you come out and take the risk of being vulnerable and co-creating something new. You are being invited into a new life that you have no experience with, but have no fear. Today is also a time to be fruitful and productive as you enjoy Rabbit Spirit's sunny and prolific energy. At this time, whatever you intend to bring to life will find fertile ground. There are no mistakes, really, when you are co-creating with Spirit. So let new ideas spring to the surface, knowing that now is a lucky time of tremendous possibility. Ooh, good card for the week. Let's see what Woto does for us today. And then I'm going to attempt to get over there to the goddess cards. Okay, so this is a Wisdom of the Oracle, also a Colette Baron-Reid deck of cards. And, oh my gosh, Milk and Honey. Milk and Honey, card 51, which is a 6. Milk and Honey. That bodes well, I believe, for us as well. 51. The essential meaning of this card is the taste of prosperity, opportunities born of authenticity, nurturing abundance, trusting that your needs will be met. You've entered a sweet time in your life, enjoying the land of milk and honey that everyone wants to experience. It's an interlude that feels more languid than ambitious when all your senses are awake to the unlimited possibilities in the universe. These times are precious and only come when you're in your authentic zone, wearing the world as a loose garment, not wanting, yet able to be nourished in ways both tangible and subtle. Abundance is an energy that you are a living part of. All your needs are being met. You are given the gift of nourishment in every form. Nice. So we have the rabbit, lucky, opportunities, and we have the milk and honey card of abundance. Let's see if the goddesses give us any wisdom about how to use that wonderful energy. All right, goddess energies. And these are for everybody, by the way. We're not drawing cards for individuals today. This is for us for the week ahead. And goddesses. No. They stuck together, but we have two. So, one is Spider Woman, and this one is Esther, New Beginnings, and Spider Woman, Co-Creation. But they were upside down. And so here's Spider Woman. Somebody got that card on Friday. I don't remember who it was now. Spider Woman, Co-Creation, and then also EOSTRE, which I believe is going to be pronounced Esther or Oster, New Beginnings, card number 13. And let's deal with Spider Woman first in upside down mode, 48. And in this deck of cards, when they are upside down, they're called alignment message. And when it's upright, it's an empowerment message. So we need an alignment message with Spider Woman. And that says you must be accountable for your creations, especially when you discover they are not truly reflective of your authentic desires or reveal they belong to only your ego. It's not enough to turn your back and hope they will go away. If you have hurt someone, you must repair the break. If you have manifested something you're not prepared to commit to, be humble and release it. The form is rarely the same as you imagined, and you can always begin again by calling on Spider Woman's powers of wisdom and co-creation for help. Sometimes you might get caught up in the strands of the web itself, only following the one you think is sparkly and matches your wants. This fosters the illusion of separation. Spider Woman offers you the alignment task of recalibrating your position. With her help, you can move out of seeing separation everywhere to seeing the truth that all life is interconnected and sacred. Love that. And let's go to 13, Esther, who was also upside down. In an alignment message, we get, look to the potential hidden in promising connections and opportunities. The difficulty arises when you think you already know how something will go. You might do something prematurely or miss an amazing experience that's right in front of you because you're looking in another direction. The real lesson is not in whether something works out, but in how you manage your curiosity so you can experience something new. Life is for learning, and right now your alignment task is to be with what is, which is perfect as it is. Look at the lessons in your life and how they are repeating. You will find that when you come to understand them, you'll know why your current situation happened. Everything has a purpose. Even disappointments can turn into miracles. Trust that the goddess of the dawn, Esther, will bring light and hope in your heart for good cause. Even if it's different from what you expect, it's always beautiful. She's a Germanic goddess, Eostre, Ostre, maybe, or I'm just going to go with Esther. All right, so we have some great messages for us for the week. Even if a couple of them were in alignment messages, they are really good reminders for us. So I'm thinking that we're in a good position. The sun moving into Aquarius, Mercury there in Aquarius. We're seeing some hopeful seeds being planted for the future. And of course, the new moon at the end of the week brings us all things new, right? The beginning of something yet again. That is it for me today. And thank you so much, Suzanne, our dear little angel number lady. She's put up the angel numbers for us. I love it, love it, love it. Thank you. And everybody take care. Have a wonderful day. See you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. West Coast time. Bye for now.